I'm Joyce Hornady. You might say accuracy is my business. I make bullets.
You are listening to the Hornady Podcast.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show.
Hey guys, on today's episode, we are traveling down the road headed to a long-range shooting competition. Now, I'm joined by fellow marketing associate Preston Lintfer, and we have Matt Ritchie with us. Now, Matt works as a sales technician here at Hornady, and if you've called in with a question, you may have talked to Matt. We talk about his upbringing, what got him into shooting, and how he started here at Hornady. We get to the match, we shoot the match, and then on part 2 of the podcast, you'll catch us on our way back as we talk about how the match went, what we saw, and how we performed. Hope you enjoy this mobile podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hornady Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Seth Swerzik, and today we're coming at you guys from our mobile beat laboratory, also known as the Ford F-150. But I've got a group of guys with me, and we're headed out to shoot a long-range match, and we wanted to take the Hornady Podcast along with us. So to my right, riding shotgun, Preston Lintfer, and in the back seat, a voice you haven't heard before, but somebody you'll likely hear much more of, we've got Matt Ritchie. Gentlemen, thanks for entrusting me with your safety and joining me at the match.
Absolutely. I have driven with you a lot of places all over the country, and I trust you more than I trust almost everyone else.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Matt, now, you are new to the podcast, but definitely not new to Hornady. And before we get into kind of what we're doing and why we're doing it, I want to get a little background from the back seat, if you will. So, Matt Ritchie, let's rewind a little bit. I don't need to go into where you were born at what time and if you were born in a barn or not, but what was you doing growing up? Where'd you grow up at? And what led you to start working at Hornady, and when did that happen?
Yeah, so I've grown up, born and raised in central Nebraska. I was thinking about this last night. I probably haven't ventured more than 2 hours away from where I was born at for most of my life.
Wow.
Come from a farming and ranching background. Especially the ranching stuff I really got into after high school, cowboying pretty hard, and that kind of still kept me around central Nebraska, feedlots, ranches, stuff like that. But once I started having kids, as most people know here in central Nebraska, ranching is a break-even deal at best. So I needed to provide a little bit better for my family, my kids, stuff like that. So I ventured into manufacturing. And that started at BD in Broken Bow, where we manufactured what they call blood collection tubes or vacutainer tubes. So
okay.
Interesting.
Did not know that.
From there, I went back to school, got my industrial technology degree, and shortly thereafter I graduated, I knocked on Hornady Manufacturing's door, got a job, and here I am, 7 years later, almost 7 years later.
Wow, that's awesome. And I think just to fill some listeners in on what most people, not most, but I know some because we've all experienced this, don't know about Nebraska. We get a lot of credit for being flat and being really agriculture focused, but there is a large portion of Nebraska, probably about half of the entire state, which is not suitable for crops of any kind. And it's just huge, sprawling cattle country, sandhills. And
Great cattle country.
Great cattle country. And like you mentioned, you're going to, at best break even, but you're going to work your butt off to get there. It's definitely hard work, a lot of labor, and that background.
It's a hard life, but it's a very fulfilling life
as
well.
Life. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It instills some work ethic like nobody's business, and that's great stuff. So when you started at Hornady, you was doing not IT, but electromagnetic repair kind of stuff.
It was. So my degree was industrial technology, which encompasses machine control programming, wiring, and troubleshooting. So basically every machine in that building that we use to manufacture our bullets, cases, and ammunition, I've worked on.
Oh, wow.
I can fix, I can program, troubleshoot, all that, wiring, everything. So, and that pretty much fulfilled 3 years of my life at Hornady, working on the floor and just working on bullet presses, case presses, ammo machine, everything.
So before we get into what you're doing right now, I want to touch on what got you hunting and shooting. Obviously, you grew up in a ranching area, so predator control is a big concern. Obviously, there's mule deer and whitetail populations, antelope out there. what got you into the shooting aspect?
So, well, growing up, my dad didn't really hunt or fish or anything like that because at a young age he had to really grow up fast because his dad died. Okay. So he didn't get me into it. I have an uncle, Preston knows him, but he's a taxidermist, and he's done a lot of work for some of the people at Hornady. So he's the one that kind of got me into the hunting and the fishing and even long range shooting because he actually had a pretty good relationship with Dave Emery.
Okay, our senior ballistician.
Yep. And actually, if my story's correct, my uncle had one of the second or third barrels ever reamed with the first 6.5 Creedmoor reamer.
Oh, wow.
And my brother still got that barrel on his gun, still shoots it to this day.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, don't shoot it too fast. Don't wear it out.
Yeah, right. He does. Well, he doesn't shoot as much as we do, but that's what started me in there. Starting out, my uncle had a 308 Winchester and a Winchester Model 70 that he built and kind of had set up as a long range gun. And the ranch I worked on was pretty large for central Nebraska. I mean, we had over 20,000 acres, and the bulk of that was pasture. So we had big rolling hills and stuff like that, and we'd go out. He'd come up, and we'd go shoot, and that started or planted the seed, And like you said, obviously, predator control on a ranch is pretty vital. Caking cows and feeding cows in the wintertime. I had a gun in my vehicle at all times, so we were all taking pop shots at coyotes or whatever. We had a few prairie dog towns, so in the spring when the pups were start coming out, we'd start shooting at them and things like that. But there was always an intrigue by stuff that was way out beyond my comfort zone to be able to maybe hit those. And that's what kind of always was there in the back of my mind. And obviously once I got through the door at Hornady, starting to get around some of these guys, especially out on the floor that shot the 600 and 1,000-yard bench rest. Okay. That got me, that kind of is where I started at, was in the bench rest game, bought a Savage 110 bench rest and 6.5 284, and that's how I started. Quickly burnt the barrel out on that, obviously, because it's a 6.5 284, but then the next route was 6.5 Creedmoor. And then 6 Creedmoor, the bench rest game is heavily dominated by 6mm cartridges, so sure. That's how I got my start.
That's how you got your start. And bench rest, highly competitive. There's so many small little nuances and things that people do that makes it really competitive and really challenging leading up to the match. I've talked to you and a bunch of other guys, the hand loading procedures, the brass preparation, the barrel care, and sometimes you wait for Saturn to block Jupiter in the month of February, and then you can deburr your cases. There's just so many extremely small things when you're shooting groups, 1, 2, 3 inch groups at 1,000 yards. Yep. I mean, you guys really take that serious, and it's an incredibly challenging arena. And then for where I got to know you at in your time there at Hornady, seemed there was a gear shift where you went from doing the industrial technology stuff on the floor, shooting in the bench rest community. Then you made a conversion to a different department. And I will really want to focus on that here as we go, because I think it's a really valuable asset for our customer that some of them don't know about. And then when you changed gears from your job, you also got into some different shooting sports. So what was the transition like from being on the industrial side going into our technical service division? So I guess for me, being in the maintenance department, it's very, especially electrical, it's very analytical. You have to know those machines in and out. You get a call and say, hey, this press isn't running, the cut bowl won't turn on. Well, by about year 2 of my employment at Hornady, I knew with a high degree of certainty going out to that call, there was only about 3 things that it could be, so, and that's just one of those things to excel. Like most, we find something that we're good at, we want to excel at it, and we want to dominate that area of operation. So that, I'm very analytical, very mechanical, growing up and being on ranching and farming, you have to be able to solve problems and fix stuff yourself. Absolutely. And then, the reloading side of that, when I started in the bench rest, obviously, like you touched on earlier, reloading is very, very important to the bench rest stuff, as far as being methodical and analytical about your processes and your procedures. So that just parlayed into being in tech support. The bulk of our calls are, I would say, reloading calls, prep between setting your presses up and your dies to
troubleshooting why it's not doing this, or why am I crushing a case when I seed a bullet into my in my seeding die, and that just transitioned to that. And I again, I didn't touch on this earlier, but I did do a brief stint at a equipment dealership in the parts department. So looking at diagrams and breaking exploded views and being able to find parts for people and understand what they say when I got this thingy dingy on that whatchamacallit that does this. Okay, yeah, that's your indexing Paul on your AP press. Yeah, so this is what we need to do to adjust that, to advance your timing or whatever, that kind of stuff. It just being from small town Nebraska, being in the farming and ranching background, being mechanical and analytical, and just then working
Sounds like
in
a
maintenance.
perfect fit.
Sounded like a perfect fit. And all three of us in this vehicle have worked in that technical services division, and not many people really enjoy the customer service aspect if and when you have to deal with somebody who's really frustrated or cantankerous or upset. But those are unique challenges, and there's a certain way that you can handle those situations. And just like you mentioned, when you find a way that, man, I'm kind of good at this, then you want to excel at that. And so that becomes a challenge in and of itself. But one thing I think the tech division does a really good job of is fast tracking your product knowledge in so many different arenas. You came from the benchrest background. Well, then, now you have to learn 3-gun stuff and F-class stuff and precision rifle stuff and all these different avenues, cowboy action shooting, and you have to be able to speak to the individual product and the individual customer and convey a lot of different ideas. And it really makes you a well-rounded shooter, reloader, outdoor enthusiast. It's
that's really the great thing about our technical services department. Somebody up there, if you want to talk about a hunt, has probably done it. Somebody up there, if you want to talk about a certain competitive shooting, has probably done it, or excels at it for that matter.
Right.
So we're all shooting and hunting up there. It's really just a way to be a genuine customer service representative.
Yep.
And it's doing that stuff. You have the ability to, at least for me, the way I look at it, if I have knowledge, I'm gonna share that freely. Like if I've screwed something up in my reloading process, i.e. smashed a case when I'm seeding bullets, and starting out, Preston, maybe we'll use this as a stick to beat me with for my whole life, but I didn't read the instruction manual. I didn't have my seeding die set up correctly, so I was engaging the crimping function when I was still trying to seed a bullet. But you learn from that, you learn from those mistakes, and you also learn by using our product, and it's almost expected that you reload, you shoot, you hunt, and that just gives you the ability to speak pointedly to those calls when we get them, and transfer that knowledge. Like it's usually you learn when you screw something up, and then you can share that knowledge.
Yep.
So.
And Preston can speak to this as well as us, Matt. That the company is really, I don't know. They encourage you to go to the shooting matches. They encourage you to get the product and use the product, and they really help garner that passion for the industry because they're helping you do it too.
Yep.
And you can't help but be excited about that. And how many guys you got upstairs answering the phone right now?
Currently, we are sitting at 8 people full-time that answer the phones and emails and stuff that we get on a daily basis.
Awesome. And so for everybody out there listening, you can give us a call, 800-338-3220, and then press 3. That'll take you right to tech services. You got those 8 guys full-time, and this is all they do. If you want to talk about a process, a function, a bullet selection, a cartridge selection, an opinion, a twist rate recommendation, you name it, I can give those guys a call. And then email-wise, obviously you can send in those email submissions. What's the email address to do that?
Tech@Hornady.com.
Tech@Hornady.com.
That's right.
Awesome.
And if in my experience up there, and I'm sure you're the same way, and I know, Matt, you're the same way, if we don't have an answer, we're going to find out for you.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like, oh, sorry, I can't help you with that. I mean, the customer service, I feel, is top notch. So we're going to do everything we can for you. If you have a question, if you're in need of something.
Awesome. And like you said, yeah, it is next level. And, we always harp on this as being small and family owned. And there's a lot of spillover to why that's good. And one of those things, and I lived it, I know you two have lived it, just like you said, Preston, I don't know the answer to that. Let me find out for you. and in 30 seconds, I can be standing at the desk of the engineer that designed the product.
Yep.
And you can get that answer straight from his mouth. And in some instances, if it has to escalate that high, you can get the customer on the phone with somebody. In some instances, we don't like to do that. That's our job, not theirs. But if the situation dictates, we're small and family owned, and that really helps the customer service. So
now, I kind of want to go back and talk about his benchrest days.
Let's do it.
Because that's something that you and I have never dove into.
Never done it.
You said you started with the Savage in 6.5 284.
Yep.
Did you do any upgrades to it when you got it at all? Or
I did. The first thing I did was got a McMillan Thule MBR stock, which Dave Thule is a legend in the benchrest.
Prolific, you could say.
And so he worked directly with McMillan stocks to design his ideal benchrest stock. So that was the first thing I did to it. The Savage 110s, obviously.
What stock did it come with originally?
It's a wood laminate stock.
Oh,
but
so big improvement going to the McMillan.
Absolutely. Bedded it, obviously, and then just manipulated the trigger. Had an AccuTrigger, so I turned it way down. Just above where it would go off when I closed the bolt, basically.
And running a factory barrel.
Starting.
Yep.
Initially, because it was chambered. It came chambered in 6.5 284, which worked for about the first 950 rounds before I burnt the throat out of it. But it shot 140s. I think the best group I've ever shot in my entire life was with that gun down in our 200-yard lab. I shot like a .338 5-shot group at 200 yards with it.
Wow.
With 140s.
Yeah, that dog will hunt.
Yeah. So
factory barrel.
Running, and then, the lot of with the benchrest, obviously you're using a very heavy adjustable front rest, which I had a Sinclair benchrest front rest.
Is that kind of the gold standard? Everybody uses that one, or
there's a lot of guys that use it. There's a lot of other ones. I don't even know all the names to them. I mean, but that's one of the ones a lot of guys use.
You are a few years removed, and product technology advances, so there could be some new stuff out there. But that's what I want to talk about: front rest and bag riding and placement.
Oh yeah,
making sure that thing is tracking just great. She's huge in the benchrest game, right?
Yeah, it's an art. It is an art form. Getting that front and rear bag aligned and getting your gun to track, so that way, when it recoils and you push it back forward against the hard stop, your reticle is in the same spot when it was before you fired.
A lot of technique to that. A lot of practice and repetition.
Yeah, and I'm by no means an expert at it. I got lucky as one of the benchrest guys that shoots and works at Hornady, Craig Anderson, would say a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. And I did shoot some pretty good groups. I was shooting half MOA, consistently, and I did lay down some. I think my best group at 1,000 for a 5-shot group, which would be what they consider a light gun group, was 3 inches, and I shot a 50. So it means all 5 rounds were in that center X-ring.
Wow. That'll do. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something interesting too in the benchrest. I think somewhat across the board is you can have the best group and win a category, or you can have the best score and win a category.
Yep.
So somebody might shoot a 1-inch group at 600 yards, but it's in the 9 ring. Somebody can shoot a 2-inch group in the 10 ring and win. And they could both win.
Yep. Win for score and they could win for group. Yep, absolutely. So.
Interesting. Well, what led you, if we can change gears now, to precision rifle stuff? So it's kind of a natural progression, or?
Yeah, I mean, it just naturally kind of being up in the tech group,
maybe
being
a little bit of egging.
Preston
with a
stick, good, tomfoolery and kidding around and giving each other a hard time. But just kind of to me, the precision rifle stuff is more real world application. Especially like the match we shot. 2 weeks ago?
3
weeks ago, the NRL Hunter. That is just about as real-world application as you can get. Running up to a position, here's your target. You don't know the range. You're going to range it. You're going to get down, build a position, and shoot your your rounds at it and try to hit it.
Oh, and they don't even tell you where the target is.
Yeah, they
you
don't
get
even
to find it. They give you a spotting stake and or area, and here's your left and right lateral limits.
Yep. So. But just kind of, and then like any red, white, and blue-blooded American male, I like neat, shiny things and
expensive too.
Expensive stuff, but the nice actions, $1,000 action, a chassis, which is I run an MDT ACC chassis on my.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. Okay. but yeah,
what I want to know about is what was your first PRS NRL precision rifle competition? Where was it? How'd it go?
Okay.
How'd it leave you feeling?
Between your ears, what was going on leading up to, and then when you were coming home from that match, that first one, what was going on in that headspace?
So going into it, I literally had no expectations. I was there to just have fun and be around, just a good group of guys from work. It was, I think, Miles and Jaden, Jacob, Preston was there. The first match I ever shot was a one-day Borders War match in Lexington, Nebraska.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You shot my gun.
And I shot Preston's gun. I put my scope on it, and it was my 6mm Creedmoor reload shooting 110 A-tips. And I think there was maybe almost 70 guys there, and I finished just outside of the top 10.
He beat me with my own gun.
And so going into it, literally had no expectations. Knew we were going to be shooting, 10 shots per stage, roughly 8 to 10 shots per stage, and it was going to be varying distances. But after that, it was
hook, line, and sinker, huh?
Yep, that started that fire, and it was a a fast and furious progression to where I am now.
Right. So that had you hooked.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're building your own gun.
Yep.
What are the components? What are you running these days?
Yeah. What are you running today?
So today, what I'm running is it's a Kelbley's Atlas Tactical Action, Bartlett barrel.
Smooth as silk.
Yep. And I actually was able to get that action because of shooting bench-rest. I won a coupon, as a Canadian say it, for a discounted price on a Kelbley's action. And
snatched it right up.
Yep, snatched it right up. Bartlett barrel, Bushnell.
But this isn't your first barrel.
No,
your first barrel was an HS, correct?
Yeah, HS precision barrel, full contour, straight, truck axle.
Yeah, those are cocky looking. Just
running
beefy.
a 6 Creedmoor, and Bushnell XRS 2 scope, Trigger Tech diamond trigger.
Do you think you'll have to upgrade now that they've come out with the XRS 3?
I don't know if I'll go with the XRS 3, but I'm really interested in the DMR 3s for the price point that they are and what the reticle. I got to look through one at Gap Grind last year. So, yeah, DMR 3 I think will be in my purview.
Sure.
Before too long.
I like it so far.
Yeah, and that's the scope is great for what we're doing here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The chassis is widely used across the board.
And that was the MDT which model?
The ACC.
The ACC.
Adjustable Core Competition chassis. Sorry, but I've got internal weights on it. Don't have any of the external weights, but
that might shock some folks. What does it weigh right now?
It's over 21 pounds.
She's girthy.
Yep. So
good thing this isn't a hike and shoot kind of match.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't have wanted it for an NRL Hunter match.
What are you running for a muzzle device on that thing?
It is a Area 419 Hellfire.
Oh yeah, that's
also
better say Area 419. Just
419.
So that they're happy.
Okay.
That is, from a muzzle device standpoint, there are some standards, and that's right up there with that thing gets used often. Not that these rounds are big recoilers, but you've got a rifle that's north of 21 pounds. You have a cartridge that doesn't recoil very much, and then you add that muzzle brake. So when you get in a position where you're shooting off 1 foot leaned over a rock or something, those rifles don't move. You can see your trace, you can see your impact, and that really adds a ton of benefit to being a good competitor, is managing that recoil when you're in a less than ideal shooting position.
Yeah, and with all of that, I guess for me, the quality of the products, to me, or at least for me for a personal opinion, it takes all the guesswork out of it. If I miss a target, it's because I didn't make a good wing call, or I just didn't do basic marksmanship, rifle marksmanship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so,
just real quick, I'll go through mine. I'm running an HS rifle, HS adjustable stock, length pull, comb, and all that stuff. I'm going to be running the Vortex Gen 2 Razor until the Gen 3 comes to my hands, and then that'll be on there. Area 419 Hellfire Match, the new 4-port.
All right.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to go, I brought both bipods, but I'm going to go Harris with the Area 419 ARCA. I got an ARCA rail on the bottom as well. I'm running 6 Creed, 110 grain A-tips at 29-24.
Beautiful. Well, I'm running almost virtually the same setup, a completely adjustable HS stock, HS barrel. We're chambered in 6 Creed, Gen 2 Razor. I'm running the MDT brake, Arca rail with the MDT SkyPod, which has just been awesome. And I'm running 110 A-tips back down a little bit at 28.95 feet per second on the average. So,
and that's been the trend lately, is kind of slow everything down, see the trace, see the bullets, see the impacts, or misses.
More misses.
More
yeah.
misses for
right.
me. But we're getting pretty excited. We're going to see some old friends. This is obviously a kind of like a home match for us, if you will. It's a couple hours away from Grand Island, but we're excited to see some friends, and we'll fill you guys in on the way back on how things went.
Yeah. There'll be a part 2 cutting in here in just a minute. We're expecting some pretty rough weather, but with good friends and a close match, ought to be a good time.
Yep. Stay tuned for part 2 right here.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Now, it looks like we're just still driving because we are, but in this case, we are headed west, headed home. We're all tired. We had an absolute awesome match, had a blast. We shot at most every target. We hit a few of them, but we really hung out with some good friends, met some new ones, and really just had a great time. Guys, how do you feel about the match?
Well, speak for yourself on shooting at most every target. 90-second stages throughout the entire match.
That's getting it on.
It's a little bit quicker. That's something I wasn't used to. I'm used to getting every shot off, and I most certainly didn't this match. So something I got to work on is time management or speed, whatever you want to call it. I did fair to Midland on the first day, and then I really went ahead and stunk it up today. But I had a great time nonetheless. Saw some old friends, and like you said, tired, glad to be headed home.
Yeah, Matt, now this, as far as this style of match, this is only match or for a big 2-day national level match. It's third, fourth match of yours?
Yeah, the fourth at least. Maybe there might be another one sprinkled in there or something that I forgot about. But yeah, it was, as far as 2-day matches, that's about the fourth one.
Awesome. And so you're obviously not new to the game. How do you feel it went for you? What went right? What kind of went wrong?
Well, I flip-flopped from what Preston said. I had a stinky first day, just got beat up by the wind. That's one thing. Time management and working on my wind reading skills are where I need to improve. As far as my gun and equipment, everything like that performed very well, as I would expect it to.
Sure.
And then day 2, I shot pretty good. I felt really good. I had like the last 3 or 4 stages, I shot better than, or hit better than 50% and got almost all my shots off. So can't complain about that.
No, you definitely can't complain. And, you mentioned wind. Obviously, that's one of the biggest limiting factors in shooting stuff far away. And reading wind is very much a perishable skill. You can practice that, you can train that, and you can get pretty good at it. And then as soon as you kind of filter and wane away from that, it goes away. It is perishable for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the only really way to be really good in this stuff is to shoot a lot and practice a lot. There's no getting around it.
Well, even just condition-wise, yesterday was kind of overcast for most of the day. You don't get a lot of mirage. Today was bright, sunshine, bluebird skies. So you had a little bit more ability to read mirage. So
yeah.
And to set the stage for the folks, this is the last match that Chaz McCrander in Eastern Nebraska is going to host for the foreseeable future.
Yep.
So he said, I'm going to make this hard.
Yeah.
I don't need to invite any of you back because there'll never be another match.
Well, in the top shooter, the guy that won it shot like 63, 64%.
That's unheard of.
Yeah,
you win a match hitting 65%.
That's crazy.
But
yeah. To set the stage, I guess day 1 was mostly prone or modified prone with just a couple barricades sprinkled in there. It was windier though on Saturday.
Yep.
Today, mostly positional with a couple of prones sprinkled in, but the winds were almost nothing to start
way
the day.
More manageable.
Maybe to 6 to 7
miles per
by
hour
the time we end.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and he really did a good job. Chaz, if you listen to this, shout out to you. Put on a heck of a match. Did a really good job with day 1, like you just mentioned, Preston, was primarily prone or modified prone. But the targetry went along with it. If you're laying on your belly, you were shooting at little targets. And that was that was an equalizer because, a troop line from 400 to 700, it's a non-issue laying on your belly. Are you kidding me? Even with a pretty stout wind. Well, when the targets are 6 inches big, by the time you get out to 600 yards, that's a little piece of steel.
Yeah.
And then today, the targetry, a little more forgiving from a size standpoint, and the positional shooting was way more difficult. Now, one thing we haven't talked about, continuing to set the stage, was yesterday when we woke up in the morning, it was pert near 0 degrees outside.
Yeah.
5 degrees.
Yeah, between 0 and 5 degrees.
With some wind.
With wind from, by the time we started, it was 5 miles an hour up into full value 10, 12, 15 miles an hour at some points throughout the day. That was a cold one. Today, we were sunbathing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ended up in short sleeves.
Yeah, it was 67 degrees right now. So challenging conditions, to say the least, from not just the positions and the targetry, but Mother Nature, And
I want to reiterate, for the winner of the match to shoot 64 or 65%, whatever it ended up being, is unheard of today.
Oh, yeah. Normally, you're winning with 90+% hits at a big match.
At least lately, that seems to be the trend.
Yeah,
It's absolutely insane. But you know what? We got to hang out with our good buddy Josh Clough of HS Precision and Dylan Springer of Box Butte? Buffalo Butte up there in Gregory, South Dakota. Now, Josh shooting 110 grain A-tips. Dylan Springer also shooting 110 grain A-tips. And Josh went ahead and ended up with a 5th place, I believe.
Top 5 finish,
And Dylan shot lights out, got 7th.
Yep, and you can't say enough good things about both of those guys. Now,
Salt of the earth people.
Josh Clough, if you haven't listened to the Hornady podcast with Josh Clough as a guest, go check that one out. But Dylan Springer, family-owned company up in Gregory, South Dakota, the Buffalo Butte. They do pheasant hunts, and they also do prairie dog shoots in the summertime. And he also hosts a long-range match up there. So get on the computer machine and type in Buffalo Butte, Gregory, South Dakota. Great people. We've known Dylan for a couple of years through Josh shooting these competitions, and we've really watched him really grow, because at first he was a bottom of the pack, kind of just figuring things out. And over a pretty short time frame, maybe 2 years, he went from bottom third to middle of the pack to he got a 7th place finish.
That was huge.
Yeah, really dialed it in.
Really, really impressed by him.
Yep. So that was just a great to hang out with everybody. And one thing before we wrap this up that is almost as important, if not as important, as everything we've been talking about, we stayed in some cabins, 3 or 4 to a cabin. We had just fantastic meals. I mean, last night, for example, we went whole hog, ribeye steaks, charcoal grill, asparagus, baked potatoes, a couple cold beer skis at the end of a long day. Just really helped tie it all together. Felt right.
These were not your ordinary ribeye steak. This was 1.25 inch, 16-ounce total ribeyes.
Yeah.
They were fantastic.
Next level. Yep. The Fairway Meat Market there in Nebraska City. Much appreciated. So we got to go home. We're going to get home, probably 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. Kiss the wife, put the kids to bed, and it's going to be a long day tomorrow. Got to go to work, got to get the gear cleaned up, the rifles, got to get all that cleaned up, just the normal stuff. It's always you go in so excited, and then there's a lot of work that comes along with it.
Long weekend for sure.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to keep this pretty short. I think we had a great time, guys. If you're out there listening, you really need to get involved. If you're considering it, you just need to go ahead and do it. Get involved with the long-range shooting sport, shooting sport in general. It's fun, the community, the camaraderie. It's just a blast. I can't say enough good things about it.
Yep, I'm going to go practice.
Yeah. So, also, if you're listening, why don't you just go out and practice shooting? I don't know what shoots or sports you guys are all doing, but just assume you need to practice more, because that's definitely an eye-opener. You get to a match like this. And awesome. Well, we are going to go home and practice. We appreciate you coming along with us, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.